Hi, Armoured Pants here. I have a video for you about the recent updates on Blitz and more general terms, what exactly is going on with Blitz and where's it going. This is my opinion about update 5.1, a big steaming pile of shit, and update 5.3, the proposal they have for that, also big steaming pile of shit. I'm pretty sure you all know what was going on. In 5.1 they cut provisions, just generally slowed down gameplay, made tanks reload slower, tanks they're more prone to set fire, etc. I'm not sure how that's supposed to benefit anybody. 5.3 they're going to basically just cull the technology lines. So to me this is the wargaming developers just pushing along a big ball of shit towards us consumers. It's basically just exasperating a really bad situation. But why are they doing this? Why are they trying to make all these huge changes? Trying to encourage new players in, albeit unsuccessfully. Well, let's have a look at the bigger picture. So this is Blitz stars, and here we can have a look at some of the stats on people actually playing Blitz. Now, of the tens of millions of people who Wargaming have claimed installed Blitz, we see that actually at any given time there's only tens of thousands online. The key message from the first graph is actually that this game is essentially Russia and EU centric, and that they have been unsuccessful in marketing or getting engagement in North America and Asia, which in actuality are bigger markets by population. So you'd wonder, well, how did they manage to do this, or rather not to do this? But that's a different question for a different time. But it is interesting to note that this is a Russian EU centric game. Most of the players are there, and therefore has the key influence upon the game. And I think that's evidenced also by the contributors. Most of them are actually from the EU servers. So if we look at what's going on in terms of engagement with this game, that is people playing it, if we look here at the bottom graph, this shows us a number of players online weekly from last year with previous updates right up to the last update 5.1. What does this tell us? Well, it tells us that those numbers online have gone from approximately 110,000 people online at any given time per week to 55,000. So basically they've halved. So they've lost 50% of their audience, or to put it in a business context, 50% of their customers. And that's the crux of the issue here. This is the problem. This is what Wargaming are trying to fix, albeit unsuccessfully. So this is the major problem. The game is effectively dying, or is certainly very ill. Now, let's just look at some player dynamics and engagement. Let's take at any given point in time, you have existing players and you don't have any new players, right? So at any just one particular point in time, you've got existing players. And let's just give that the numerical value of 100 for illustrative purposes, right? Let's say then you want to launch a campaign. So Wargaming decide they're going to advertise Blitz heavily on Facebook or on the App Store or on the Play Store, etc. And the idea is to get new players. And what they hope is that they will move from the first graph to the second graph, so that new players will come in, they will keep the existing players, and player numbers increase. Again, just for illustrative purposes, I've taken a new player value of 10. So therefore, engagement, new players has gone up 10%, and you have 110% of the player base you had, right? Which seems good. But of course, the success of this is based on what you actually do to encourage those players. And if you're messing around with key game components that make the game enjoyable, you actually end up with a situation more like this, where you actually lose players from the existing base. And there is both quantitative, and we just looked at the graph, evidence to support that. We see the numbers are decreasing. And I'm sure qualitatively, speaking to people in your own clan or your friends, you've seen that they've actually left or play less. So you actually, in best case scenario, maybe only keep the same number. In this case, you've got 100 moving to 100, but the composition of that 100 is different with new players and existing players. Although we have seen that with Wargaming, they've actually lost players. So it's even worse than that graph demonstrates. Why is this important? Well, it comes to a thing which from sports science called total competency level, TCL. Now, if we look here, and just to illustrate this, I've taken a very simple example where we have players which we give a weighting to. So new players have a weighting, and obviously new players have a far less weighting than existing players in terms of their skill levels. And the skill level, well, let's just say new players have 1, right? And existing players, let's say, have 6. So on average, you're 6 out of 10, right? I mean, just to say, it could be anything. It's just illustrative. And therefore, if you multiply that out, you get a weighted total competency level of 600. If you apply the same characteristics, the same formula, to the new dynamics, you see that the total skill level, the total competency level, the TCL, has actually fallen. And that's what's happening. So have you ever wondered why you're enjoying the game less? Have you ever wondered why after particular updates it seems to suck even more than normal? This is why. To illustrate this by a graph, we see that the total competency level, total skill level, has actually decreased significantly with the introduction of these new players, because you've lost the existing players. And the net effect of existing players leaving is significantly negative. So the total competency level within the game has decreased significantly. Therefore, it's less enjoyable for those who remain playing it. It's also less enjoyable for the new players, because they have less people to learn from. And this is a graphical illustration of why, after particular updates, it sucks, and perhaps your win rate goes down, or you're not enjoying it as much. So, and here's why Wargaming's proposals won't work. What they're planning to do to solve this is not going to work. Now, rather than me talking, let's have a look at some science here. What makes a good computer game? Some research from the Stockholm Institute of Technology. So there are key elements that make a successful computer game. There's the story. In this case, it's the background of tanks, particularly the historical one, right? Not so key to this game, but it does interest people, particularly tank enthusiasts. There's the characters. In this case, it's the tanks, right? The tanks are the actual characters that we play with. They are our vehicles, both figuratively and literally, that we use within the game. It's the graphics. Poor graphics is poor enjoyment. Great graphics, great enjoyment. And then achievements. Achievements, we mean they're kind of rewards or things that you can get within the game by playing and being successful. So in this case, it's moving up through the technology lines, getting an extra gun, getting the extra turret, getting the enhanced suspension, etc. Getting new tanks, and of course we all know how much we love to get new tanks. How such excitement, fitting it out, getting new camo on it, playing it, it's enjoyable, right? The next 4 elements are action. So therefore, what we do within the game is the action enjoyable. How is the playability? Action adventure is the action, but taken at, for example, different settings. So we have different action at different maps, right? Different strategies, different tactics, etc. apply to different maps. And all of these contribute to the overall gameplay. Now, if you look at what Wargaming is doing, and then we will refer back to these 8 key elements of what makes a successful game, you will see, and this is, by the way, looking at it completely scientifically, right? This is scientific research into what makes a good game. And it was part of a master's thesis at the Stockholm Institute of Technology. So it's not just me talking. This is the science behind computer games. We will see that the wargaming proposals for Blitz are not going to work. But let's look in detail to see why they won't work. And by the way, of course, this is only my opinion. I'm not connected to wargaming at all. I've never spoken to them about it. But I do have over 20 years experience in the ICT sector, running various different projects and businesses quite successfully in many cases, in most cases I hope. So, I do hope it's an informed opinion. But of course, you feel free to disagree with me. So how does it stack up? Well, if you look at the story, by removing tanks, the historical background, what we're interested in, there's a reduction in engagement, right? Reducing the number of tanks, the number of characters, also reduces the attractiveness of the game. The graphics, I imagine, will remain the same, or maybe even improve, so let's just say that's neutral. Let's be generous and say it's going to be good. Achievements, well, there's less tanks, you're going to have less achievements. Less tanks, there's going to be less action. Plus, by reducing, for example, the speed, the reload and all that, they're actually reducing the in-play action. Now, they have actually, of course, introduced new maps, etc. But the overall characters that engage in those maps are going to be less, and those that are there, particularly at the lower tiers, are going to be slower. They're not going to be as fun to play. They're going to have slower reload, etc. So therefore, your overall ability to score, to do damage, to move around the map is reduced. Therefore, as a natural consequence of this, the strategy and tactics also reduce, and overall gameplay reduces. So therefore, I believe that what they're doing is an epic fail. it's going to be an epic fail, and it's going to even exacerbate the current situation, the decline of the player base, more than has already been the case heretofore. Now, that is just my opinion, but I think it's based on scientific analysis of what makes a good computer game, scientific analysis of what makes a total competency level within a team or within a community in our case. And I think that it's just bad all around, and it's going to exacerbate an already bad situation. Now, if we look at Wargaming's Blitz objectives, what are they? Well, they want to get as many people playing as possible, right? They want those players to be active. Of course, as a business, they want those players to spend money, and they want to improve overall game experience. So get rid of toxicity, absolutely, and get rid of the frustrations in the game. And they're all noble objectives and ones we all support. But how they're going about it is all wrong, because normally how you achieve this is that you should reward the behavior you want to have. It's a very simple concept. It's basic marketing 101. And this is something that airlines, hotels, petrol stations, electricity companies, supermarkets have all done to great success. And if you remember gaming shops, remember when you used to go in and buy games in Game or whatever, Virgin, they also engaged in this very simple concept, which I've been encouraging Wargaming to do for I haven't been encouraging Wargaming, but I've been encouraging this as an idea for Wargaming for a very long time. And basically this is a simple idea that will reward the behavior that they want. It will get players engaged, it will attract new players, and it will reward those players who are loyal, who play more, and will reduce toxicity as well as many other of the negative things. And that solution is a loyalty program. A loyalty program, it's so simple. Basically it rewards you for playing. Now credits sort of are a de facto version of this, but you lose credits when you lose, right? This is based on the number of games you play. So basically it rewards you for being loyal, for playing, and for being online. It rewards you for spending money. So therefore, if you spend money, if you buy a premium tank, if you buy gold, if you buy bundles, whatever you buy in the shop, whenever you give money to Wargaming, they reward you. And they also reward you for good behavior. So not being a dick brings your own rewards. Conversely, being a dick brings punishment. So how would this work? Well, I'll tell you, I have a very simple idea for it. In fact, I even came up with a very snazzy name for it, which would even help Wargaming, I think, and is particularly relevant to the world that we live in now with cryptocurrencies. So basically, you would earn Blitz Bits. You see what I did there? Bitcoin, Blitz, combined it. That took me about 5 minutes, by the way. So I'm sure Wargaming came up with something better. But I think Blitz Bits is pretty catchy, So basically, you earn your Blitz Bits, your Blitz coins for playing, for buying things, etc. Right? Pretty cool, huh? So how do you earn your Blitz Bits? Well, you earn your bits for playing. You earn your bits for spending money. You earn your bits for getting praises. You lose bits for complaints against you. And if there's a serious ticket against you, you have your Blitz cut or even taken away. Just think how that affects the game. Imagine you've been saving up your Blitz Bits for months to get a tier 8 premium or something like that, which would normally cost you a lot of gold. You're maybe 10,000 Blitz Bits away from it. I don't know what that would be in games, but Wargaming needs to work that out. But then you tell somebody that they hope to die in a car crash, and they report you, and you have all of your Blitz Bits taken away from you. Now that is real punishment. That is really going to hit you both in the pocket, psychologically and emotionally, because you're so close to getting your tank. And take that away from people, and I think you're pretty soon going to cut out a lot of toxicity, because you're going to lose something that you've worked very hard for. And at the end of the day, people are inherently selfish, and taking something from them personally is going to have a much bigger effect than any of the other proposals, I believe. Once you collect Blitz Bits, they could be used to acquire gold, credits, premium tanks, bundles, crates, especially if there's competitions coming up or special events, and maybe perhaps limited bits-only tanks. Imagine that you are the most loyal customer. You play hundreds or thousands of games a month, and you buy premium tanks. Then perhaps there's a tank that you can get with, let's say, 1 million Blitz Bits that only you can get for doing that. And therefore, you are rewarded and you feel special. You feel as if you're rewarded. And by making it about buying and playing and all that, and having a balance, it's not just about Wallet Warriors, it's about everybody, and everybody can acquire them. So basically the key to it is that Blitz Bits are simple to acquire, but not easily acquired. You can get them simply by playing, but you can't acquire a huge amount of them unless you play regularly. In other words, you are demonstrating that behavior that wargaming wants, and right now, as we saw from the numbers, needs. So let's have a look. Would Blitz Bits work? Well, I believe it would, but let's have a look at the objectives. So wargaming want to get the maximum number of players playing, right? They want to attract new players, they want to keep existing players, they maybe want to attract some players who've left back. They want to encourage all players to be as active as possible, and they also want to encourage players to spend money. And of course, they want to reduce frustrations, toxicity. You want to reduce your frustration at losing, and they want to also reduce this post-purchase dissonance. What is that? Well, post-purchase dissonance is a consumer behavior term that refers to when you spend money on something and you're dissatisfied with it. This happens all the time in Blitz, particularly with premium tanks. You buy something, and you've wasted gold, which is real money, and you may not be happy with it, may not be what you thought, and of course selling it never gives you back exactly what you spent. So, but if you got your Blitz Bits for this, and of course I would imagine that spending gold or spending money would have a much larger effect on your Blitz Bits balance than simply playing, it would have to be to encourage that behavior, then you wouldn't be so dissatisfied, right? So I believe that it would indeed get more players playing, attract new players, keep existing players, and get players back. It would encourage those players to be active. It would definitely encourage players to spend more money for those who can, and it would reduce those frustrations. As I said, with toxicity, if you lose your Blitz Bits for being a dick, well then you're going to think very carefully about telling people to get AIDS or cancer, right? So would Blitz Bits work? I think it would, definitely. And I think that if we can gather together as a community and actually get this program working, I think it will be beneficial for everybody involved, because it doesn't exclude anybody. And if you agree with me, put a yes in the comment section, or just simply hit like. So there you go, that's my idea. So the music, by the way, is Meditation from Thias for piano and violin, and I do believe it's quite apt, because I guess we all need to think, don't we? Okay, take care guys, see you now, bye.